Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real_G Warner. Thank you for tuning in on StreamYard via Twitter, or if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube, please subscribe, give a review, do all those sort of things. We're trying to do a really quick episode today because we are one day removed from the World Cup, yet the Carabao Cup, or the EFL, English Football League Cup, round of 16 kicks off tomorrow. And I want to at least get some intel out there, and hopefully some of you can use that to win some money. And, it might be one of those things we just jump into and get right in there because I can't find exactly what I'm trying to read. But I guess thanks everyone for coming along for the ride. World Cup was really, really great. I hope that we can continue that, hopefully as long as possible. But all lines quoted on this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced juice is offered on almost every game you want to bet, right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description below to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Okay, so now that we're here, let's jump in. Some of these teams are very small and tough for me to really know, but I'll go through them all. There's only 8 matches and probably get this done in the shortest podcast that Betting the Pitch has ever known. Southampton currently a 1.75 goal favorite to Lincoln City. Big difference between the Premier League and the lower leagues here, but seeing Southampton as a 1.75 goal favorite seems monstrous. Over/under is 3. And in the Cup, I feel like most Cup matches tend to play a lot closer than you'd expect, despite big discrepancies in talent. It makes me lean towards Lincoln. I just don't know exactly how much the Imps or what type of quality they have compared to Southampton. Southampton didn't have a ton of players playing in the World Cup, so that's been good for them training and playing, I'm sure, a bunch of friendlies. And probably puts them in a really healthy position, and might as well put their first team regulars out there, try to get some cohesion before they go back into the Premier League, which did not go great for them. And they got their manager fired, or as the English call it, sacked. Maybe at +2, there's a little more interest. I think Lincoln has most of the juice right now, but that Cup matches are notorious for having huge juice switches. So keep an eye out if you like Lincoln. You might get a +2 eventually. The other, I guess, another Tuesday match. We got 3 of them. So, 4. Excuse me. There's 4 of them. We have Newcastle hosting Bournemouth. And this is a matchup that I'd like to clue into because it's 2 Premier League sides. Newcastle with a question mark around Kieran Trippier, and certainly a lot of question marks on how much Newcastle care about this competition versus their trip to try to hang into a Champions League position, where I believe they left off after or into the international break. Kieran Trippier's injury or availability after playing for England is a question, but Newcastle were so good for all of the first half of the season, mainly based off a really tight defense. Currently, Newcastle 1.25 goal favorite to Bournemouth at home. Crowd is nuts there at the top northern part of England. Over/under is 2.75, which seems very high to me. Bournemouth were a really good team to back, and honestly, I went on a great run backing them almost every match after they lost 9-0 to Liverpool. I would think that they're more worried about the Premier League season as well. So both of these teams could be putting out some potential rotation or some rotated lineups for this one. I think my biggest interest is into Bournemouth under 2.75. More so than Bournemouth getting 1.25, because unfortunately, if you're trailing in this competition, you're likely sending everyone forward late because there is no tomorrow, there is no goal differential. It's simply win in advance or lose, and your season or cup run ends. So I think my favorite of this one would be Bournemouth 2.75 or under 2.75. Wolves then host Gillingham. Currently, Wolves a 2.25 goal favorite. All the juice right now on Gillingham, pretty much. Over/under is 3. We saw Julian Lopetegui take over for Wolves, but he really hasn't done much in actual season play just yet. I'm very interested to see what they look like. I imagine that their goal scoring issues won't be so glaring against a team named Gillingham, which I don't even know what league they play in. But Wolves defense is kind of what they've been known for 2 seasons. I think when they're supposed to score a ton of goals and really beat someone handily, that makes it severely points to the under, especially when you get a push on 3 goals here. I need to do plenty more research on Gillingham to see kind of exactly what they are. But Wolves offense has not really been much to speak of. Certainly there could be a big talent discrepancy here, but under 3 would be where I'd lean in that one. MK Dons then host Leicester. Finally, a big underdog gets to host a big Premier League club. And Leicester went into the break playing really, really well. Currently, MK Dons, a 1.25 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Leicester looks like that's climbing to 1.5. I would imagine most of the money coming in are going to be on the Premier League sides. Over under is 2.75, juice to the over. And it's really, how much do you like Leicester, or how much do you dislike the Dons, I guess, at this point? I don't have much to say about the Dons, but Leicester giving a big price on the road in what might be a pretty close cup tie, and we'll see what happens. As they went into the break with James Maddison getting injured and then not really playing much for England. I'm not sure what his status will be for this matchup. Certainly things to look for in all these lineups that come through. There'll probably be some big drastic changes in the juices I mentioned, but maybe even spreads entirely when lineups come out. But Leicester got to go on the road and win pretty handily here. But as I said, that second goal is much easier when everyone goes forward in a cup tie when there is no tomorrow. Moving to Wednesday, we have Blackburn Rovers hosting Nottingham Forest, another minnow hosting a Premier League side. Currently, Blackburn Rovers, a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.5. And Nottingham Forest certainly are focused on trying to stay in the league, and that should be their biggest and number one goal here this remainder of the season. I would imagine that they want to get some cohesion, and I feel like that's what most Premier League sides will do in this competition, especially since they've been apart for so long, at least in a competitive sense. Blackburn Rovers certainly are in a position where Nottingham Forest are probably the weakest team out of the Premier League to play, so good for them to get a home match, and that certainly gives them an opportunity to go through. Also, this goes to extra time. Blackburn Rovers, or at least when you port a portion of your wager, if you take that quarter. At 2.5, I'm not sure what I feel about the under, but this feels like the closest match that we've talked about so far. Next, we have Charlton Athletic hosting Brighton. Currently, Charlton, a 1.5 goal underdog at home. And Brighton certainly looked like a very different side than they were under Graham Potter towards the end of the first half, I guess you will call it. They are going to go in and probably will create some goals and create some opportunities. And Roberto De Zerbi, the former Sassuolo manager, is going to be front-footed playing attacking football the entire time. Probably the rest of the season would be my expectation. Doesn't make me like under 3 goals here. It's very juiced at the moment. Really, that I think is a telltale sign on how good Charlton will be in this competition. But Brighton, I think, are going to be very aggressive, and there might be some value in them scoring a lot of goals, which as a favorite would make a little more sense here, but maybe more towards that over 3, though it feels like a lot for a cup tie. Next, we have Manchester United hosting Burnley. Burnley had fallen down the championship, but have been playing, I think, pretty well, seem to be still pretty talented in the second division in England. Manchester United playing really well entering into the World Cup, but also had a lot of players playing. Harry Maguire played a bunch for England, Marcus Rashford as well. And so Manchester United currently a 1.25 goal favorite. Over under is 2.75, which is pretty high for a Burnley match, though and this big rivalry matchup as well for the Man City defender whose name is escaping me, but has taken over at the helm at Burnley. I don't know that I'm really that interested in backing Burnley unless they were the Sean Dyche Burnley that's going to sit back and really make it tough on Manchester United to score. I don't want to see them playing an open game against the Manchester United athletes, and I feel like that doesn't really cater very well to under 2.75 either. So that's probably a skip for me. And then last but not least, on Thursday, we have Manchester City hosting Liverpool. Big matchup. Manchester City, a 0.5 goal favorite. And we'll see what their lineup looks like, because both these two teams have had a ton of players playing all over Europe, including Manchester City having Julian Alvarez playing in the World Cup final just yesterday. Can't imagine he's returning and to play in this one, but certainly that Erling Haaland guy is pretty scary. Over under is 3. I imagine there's going to be some goals in this one, but 3 is a lot for these two teams. And I feel like when they play each other, it's usually a stalemate, sometimes 2-2, but I feel like it's a lot of times hard to get there. As an underdog player, as anyone who's watched this will probably understand, I'm interested in Liverpool getting that 0.5 goal. Don't know that I feel good enough about their season and how it's gone so far to really play them here. But under 3 looks a little bit appetizing as well. Those certainly 2 scary offenses. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll give you an ultimate best bet as I do on every show. Please hit the follow button, @thereal_G Warner on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, like and give 5 stars, reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That would be awesome. For my best bet on this pod, I'm going to go Wolves under 3 goals, as I just don't really believe in their offense. I don't think Julian Lopetegui is going to change too much right away. And they're a team that hasn't scored goals in a very, very long time. Thanks for tuning in. We'll get some more coming for future Premier League stuff. I'm about to head to the airport. Hope everyone has a great time, and we'll see you all soon.